Caitlin, hit the music. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carsillo in, flooded Los Angeles, California. Joining me the rest of the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today, my friend?
Beautiful blue skies, sub-40s temperatures. It's really nice out here, Ray. But are you ready, Ray? I'm going to start off the episode with a pop. Are you ready for this week's non-sponsor of the week?
I am ready for the non-sponsor of the week, yes, sir.
You're going to love how I do this, Ray. So would you please tell the people at home what I'm holding in my hands right now? For those of you listening.
Cool Ranch Dorito.
And Doritos would have been the non-sponsor of the week if my DJ Rock the Johnson, Zoa, didn't come in and take its place at the last minute. Our non-sponsor of the week this week is Zoa Energy Drinks. This is an orange one, zero sugar energy drink, has lots of vitamins in it. It is like an energy drink, but it's much better, Ray. And I'm going to open it. It's not a Steve Weiser, it's a Rock Weiser.
Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about with The Rock today here on today's show because but we've got a big show for everybody.
Zoa is the non-sponsor of the week, right?
Zoa is the non-sponsor of the week.
Out.
And we give a shout out to The Rock, and we're going to be talking about the Rock a lot. We got a big show for everybody. We got a lot of video game talk. We got some interesting streaming service news. We've got a little bit of sports news from everywhere else. But the big news this week is all about wrestling. It is all about the possible main event of WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A shocking turn of events as Cody Rhodes, who of course was the winner of the Royal Rumble, his second year in a row, only the fourth man to ever win back-to-back Royal Rumbles, looked like he was going to call his shot against Roman Reigns to quote-unquote finish the story and, of course, have his long-awaited revenge after last year's WrestleMania main event until, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? The music hit. The most electrifying man in the world of entertainment came down the ramp and supposedly took Cody's main event spot, or the Cody relinquished it. Lee, what are your initial thoughts on this? Because there's a lot going on here and a lot that we have to unpack, but I want to get your initial thoughts.
Yeah, Ray, it seems a little lazy to me. Everyone's getting a lot of different reactions across the board. We all know I'm a huge Dwayne Johnson fan. I love The Rock. Something's out of place about this. We've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks that The Rock will always return to WWE if he needs to. And he kind of needs to right now.
Yes.
Right? His film career is still great, but it's not exactly where it once was, maybe even a couple of years ago. And he always likes to come home when he needs to. Mm-hmm. But he's stepping in to take a WrestleMania shot. At least it looks that way.
Yeah.
And there's something inauthentic about it. There's something lazy about it. It's not bad. We talked about this before. It's not a bad thing. It's just a lazy thing, a little bit too predictable. And I think the fans, for the first time, I think, are really so aware and so self-conscious that they're kind of having a say in this, as we found out last night on Raw.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, we have to kind of almost look at the last couple of months of WWE to really kind of understand the magnitude of this moment, right? So The Rock, before he was announced as a new board of director for TKO, and that he was coming back to WWE, January 1st, their New Year's show, The Rock came back and kind of hinted that he wanted Roman Reigns in some capacity. Now, obviously, January 1st, you have time to build up to Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania or even beyond if that was the plan, right? And there were rumors that actually would not have been in WrestleMania that The Rock was going to go after Roman at SummerSlam. There was also then, of course, to finish the storyline, right? A lot of us were very disappointed, felt the moment was lost. Cody, everything had been set up for Cody in WrestleMania 39. He gets screwed out of the title by Solo Sikoa, of course, one of the many Samoan cousins, one of Roman's cousins, the youngest son of Rikishi. And Cody gets screwed, and then you have this year-long buildup. And this is the problem sometimes when you do a year-long buildup and everyone knows what's coming, is that sometimes things happen that you can't predict, and then you have to kind of cover it up. Like, to your point, the laziness, CM Punk, who looked like he was going to challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, tears his tricep in the Royal Rumble. An unfortunate injury. He's going to miss likely 6 months. He might be back for SummerSlam. We'll see. Now, suddenly, Seth needs an opponent. Roman needs an opponent. You're worried now. It shows that there's not a lot of faith in Cody, even though a lot of us have faith in Cody, right? You see the hashtag here, we want Cody, right? Which has been trending now for almost 96 hours straight since Friday Night SmackDown. And it looks like you don't have the faith in Cody because now you're putting Cody. It looks like you're putting Cody against Seth, and you're putting The Rock against Roman. Now nothing is official. WWE has, and by the way, this is also brilliant. First off, it's gotten everybody to stop talking about Vince McMahon.
That's exactly right. That's another big part of this.
They're usurping the Super Bowl. They're going to Vegas for a special Thursday WrestleMania press conference because that's where all the sports media is. And everyone says there's going to be more news coming out of that event than anything leading up to the Super Bowl. That is the biggest press event for the Super Bowl this week is for WWE, which says a lot. But here's the thing. If they do this incorrectly, we talk about the last night, as Lee continues to munch on his Cool Ranch Doritos, our non-sponsor, our Southern non-sponsor, they hijacked Raw last night. Fans were chanting Rocky sucks for the first time in 20 years, which, by the way, isn't going to help his film career possibly. The fans were chanting, we want Cody. There was we want Cody signs everywhere. Some folks said those were plants, but even still, people have said, no, I was at the event. I don't know if the signs were plants, but the stadium, and this is true, there was a lot of crowd noise cut out of Raw last night because especially during the quote-unquote slower matches, people were chanting the whole show, we want Cody. And Cody Rhodes did not speak last night. He wrestled, but he did not speak. Again, putting even more pressure on Thursday's presser. Lee, what can WWE do to fix this? Because to me, this feels like a Daniel Bryan moment from a few years ago, which maybe that's their grand plan all along, right? For those of you who don't remember, Batista won the Royal Rumble a few years ago, similar to The Rock, came back out of nowhere. Looked like they were going to put the belt on Batista. The Daniel Bryan yes movement was so strong that they swerved at Mania, and Daniel Bryan won 2 matches that night in an impromptu tournament to win the championship. It feels like they're trying to do something like that, but Lee, is that what they're going to do with the Rock and Roman?
Well, here's the funny thing about the situation. Several wrestlers are not speaking.
Yes.
Which I think is being done on purpose because it allows them to pivot however they need to pivot. The Rock did not speak when he was there. You said Cody did not speak. I was kind of shocked to hear Rocky sucks last night. So there's a few things on the table here. Can The Rock turn heel?
Yes.
And now here's the thing. The Rock can turn heel. Can Dwayne Johnson turn heel is a whole nother question. So I'm interested to see where he is at with that. If anybody can do that successfully, it's him. It might be good for him to turn heel and then turn back at some point. It depends how long he wants to stay in wrestling. Right. The other thing, too, is the beauty of them not speaking is they can pivot now, like I said, as many times as they want to. Are they going to listen to the fans? Is this a grand plan? The WWE will certainly try and make this look like we got you where we want you and we knew the whole time what you were going to do. That's kind of what they're going to try and do. The question is will it hit? Yeah. Is it going to hit at WrestleMania? I don't know. Is there going to be a huge surprise? I don't know. We talked about this before. What makes wrestling wonderful is unpredictability. When you can't see something coming. The greatest example of this, nobody saw Mankind flying through a steel cage in the ceiling when The Undertaker threw him. Nobody saw that coming. Wasn't planned. All right, to be fair. All right, that match was already pretty darn good before that. Yeah. But it's like there's 2 types of potential surprises. One is a surprise that's plausible and believable, and it's good because it's like, wow, I can't believe that person did that. And then there's lazy surprises, which is like, out of nowhere, this guy shows up. And I feel like we're a little bit in that territory right now. But here's what I'll say. We talked last week on our show about the Attitude Era stars coming in to save the day. Here's your chance. Here is your chance. Now, I'll also say this too, right? It's up to them. It's up to Triple H. It's up to Shawn Michaels. It's up to Rock to now make something so great that the fans go, wow, I was not expecting that in the best way possible. There's also this really big, and you alluded to it, chance that they don't need this to hit. They just need the Vince McMahon story to go away. Right. And that might be, because here's the thing. Rocky sucks is a lot better than, anything about Vince McMahon. Right. Now, here's the deal. I've been watching Young Rock. He always talks about you gotta own the gimmick, right? He would be smart, in my opinion. He'd be smart to lean in to the Rocky sucks thing. In fact, if he's really smart, he'll come out and say, Rocky Maivia is a lot of things, but sucks isn't one of them.
Yep.
He could completely play that to his potential. If he does that, I'm going to call now that he will do something like that, or somebody will do something like that. Right. Also, I mean, his daughter's around, right?
Yes.
So that could be another thing too. I mean, that's the kind of pivot I see. If first off, Seth Rollins was great last night saying, this is not what I expected.
Yes.
He didn't know what to do.
He milked that crowd expertly.
Yeah, it was well done. Right. And when it comes to The Rock at WrestleMania, I don't know. It's like, if he doesn't wrestle the greatest match of his career, if that's the direction they're going, that's the only thing you can do. He's got to have the greatest match of his career, or there's something we don't see coming. He's not talking, like I said.
Yeah, it's why there's a huge buildup for Thursday now for, again, a press conference in the middle of Super Bowl week in the Super Bowl city to also really kind of undermine the NFL in an interesting way. I will say this. I have two predictions. I like your idea of possibly a return to corporate Rocky, right? The corporation Rock, heel Rock. That is possible. But again, that could hurt his overall brand. For folks who really, again, not as that they don't like The Rock.
That's all he says. I'm an actor.
But it could be that it hurts the Rock's overall brand because people love Cody that much. Another possible solution: what if Roman wrestles 2 matches at WrestleMania? Remember, WrestleMania is over the course of 2 nights. The idea that Roman could have 2 matches, this is my thought: Roman versus Rocky for the head of the table, not for the Universal Champion, or even you could even have it for the championship. I don't think Rocky would win, but whoever wins that match then has to face Cody in the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania for the title.
Well, I'll say one more thing too. One more prediction that there is. I don't think this is that far out. There's also a lot of reason to believe that why would The Rock turn on his cousin? You know what I'm trying to say? Where they could be in cahoots here. This might be their whole plan the whole time. They could have something like that where, he doesn't want to fight Reigns. You know what I mean? Right. And he's actually there to support him in some form.
Well, and that goes back to him appearing at the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia years ago to try and raising his arm and trying to help him get over.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say is like, there's also that. I don't like that storyline.
No.
But he could do that. But we'll
Absolutely.
see.
I think the family storyline could the bloodline storyline could work depending on either way, where either Rock is part of the bloodline or Rock feels like he has to save the bloodline from Roman. Anything could happen. Again, we're about 48 hours away from when we're recording this to when we're hopefully finding out at that press conference. Again, my hope against hope is 2 matches. Give us a double match. Kick off WrestleMania with Rocky versus Roman. It would be the biggest start to WrestleMania on night 1. And at the end of night 2, the main event of the second night, give us the title match.
Well,
put the strap on Cody.
They will never lead with that match, but I do agree with you. But I'll tell you what this is doing. It's helping Cody. It's helping Cody Rhodes heavily.
Cody is becoming one of the biggest baby faces ever.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they wanted. Like I said, maybe there is a grand plan here.
Yeah.
I don't think you can predict them saying Rocky sucks. Now, here's the other thing about Rocky sucks is that he sucks until he speaks, right? Then everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's Rock!" Like the other night. For those you didn't see, they were obviously recorded once they went off the air, and Dwayne Johnson did talk to the crowd, and they were pretty hyped up. Yeah. So it's like it's one of those things you hate them till you don't.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It could very easily go either way. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops over the next couple of days, and then the following weeks leading up to WrestleMania. We're about 6 weeks away from or 7 weeks away from WrestleMania. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But
if you smell what the Ray is cooking, ha.
So moving over from one athlete that people may not want to another, MLB The Show revealed their cover this week for MLB The Show 24. A curious choice, I feel. Because again, I feel it's a person in baseball who was probably more popular and probably had a better year several years ago. Vlad Guerrero Jr., of course, a very fine first baseman up for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's not the first Blue Jay to be on the cover. I believe that was Josh Donaldson after he won his MVP. But again, it's a curious decision as to why you would go with Vlad when Ronald Acuna won the MVP last year. You still have Julio Rodriguez if you're looking for the youth movement up in Seattle. it's a curious decision that they went with Vlad Jr. Obviously, yes, he's he's a great player in his own right, and obviously the son of one of the all-time greats. But I just feel like after last season, he's not the person. He's not the guy on the tip of everybody's tongue, right? When they think of like the faces of baseball. Lee, what are your thoughts on this year's cover athlete for Movie the Show?
Yeah, this one probably came down to money. And then just the probably feedback from fans on what they want to see on the cover, right? I mean, he's a young guy. Again, he has a legacy. I think that plays a lot into it. But I mean, I've never got lost in the cover athletes. I mean, it's not as big a deal to me today as it was when we were in college. Last year. But yeah, no, I mean, it looked good for him. I guess this is a money deal, and powder blue looks good, so that might have something to do with it too. It's going to stick out on the cover, right?
Yes. And I will say, I'm also really excited actually more for the collector's edition cover, which is a tribute to the Negro Leagues, which of course they added that mode last year. They're building on that mode again this year in this year's game, telling the stories, of course, of the Negro Leagues. And I believe it's the 1948 Eastern All-Star team is on the cover, the Negro League All-Stars, for the cover of the collector's edition, which I think is a really great, a great idea and a great tribute. And I definitely think, at least with that aspect, they hit a home run. No pun intended. Maybe slightly
pun intended. Yeah.
Pun intended. Yeah. Other baseball news, the Orioles, who were bought in 1993 for $173 million, are now being sold for $1.725 billion. That's a 1,000% increase on the investment. $1 billion to another one of these hedge fund investment guys. But it also means that a good Oriole team that won the division last year and made a blockbuster trade this week for Corbin Burns, absolutely cutting the Yankees off at the kneecaps because Brian Cashman's a bum who should still be hit by a bus. Yeah, awful. How do you let your division rival get this? I don't understand. When you claim to be in discussion with every team about everything and blah blah blah, and then the Orioles come in and really for a steal. The Brewers gave up Burns for almost nothing, but now that you have all this new money behind you, there's no reason not to believe that Burns is going to get the long-term contract that he wants and probably deserves. The Orioles, if he stays healthy, now have a legit number one ace in their rotation that they did not have last year and still won 100 games. The Orioles, I'm going to say it right now, they're my pick to win the East. Again.
How dare other teams in the AL East compete, Ray, against your precious
Terrible.
Yankees?
Terrible.
How dare the other teams have the goal to take on the Yankees and make blockbuster moves to better their teams?
I said it. It's like CBS owns them all over against the late 60s, early 70s Yankees, and now it's Hal Steinbrenner and the pencil pusher. I don't think we have the money for this. No, Brian Cashman, I don't want to trade for Corbin Burns.
Hey, go O's. I'm rooting for the O's now.
Of course you would.
Listen, 30 years ago, this shows you how far professional sports has come in 30 years in terms of valuations and the business side of sports. This was absolutely the year to sell them. 100% the year to sell them if you were going to sell them. So this is a good business deal. I mean, it's an interesting one. The real question is, will the Orioles have sustained success now for 10 years? And my guess is that they will. But again, 173 million, and then 30 years later, 1.72 billion. That's not just the Orioles' success. That's the MLB's success and how much this business has grown and will continue to grow, in my opinion.
And TV deals and all that other stuff. And I will say this, again, now with that money, they can lock up their long-term superstars, which they weren't able to do before.
Yeah.
Right? Adley Rutschman, switch hitting catcher. Suddenly now you can lock him up long-term. You have Gunnar Henderson. You have Jackson Holliday, number one prospect in baseball coming up through their ranks, probably going to be their shortstop of the future. Baltimore might be getting ready to make a push for some championships.
Yeah.
And this is a big start. So, who's not going to win a championship anytime soon?
Oh, yeah, I could pick a few teams, but the one that used to be or is kind of in Oakland.
Yes, the Oakland Athletics. They are in real dire shape, and not only dire shape, such dire shape that the Athletics will definitely play next year because they are in Oakland for their lease expires at the end of 2024. But now there are talks that with the stadium in Vegas maybe not being built till 2028 at this point. Originally it was 2027 by most estimations.
Yeah, at the Tropicana site.
Yes.
Beautiful site.
Yes, which they have to demolish the Tropicana right there in the Strip, very close to Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play, but right there on the Strip. And the designs for the stadium are fantastic. Right now, it's like a half dome that can close completely if the weather gets too harsh there in Vegas. But there are talks that the Athletics could be contracted, as in they could be erased from baseball for the 3 seasons it takes for the franchise to move to Vegas, which would then mean that the players who are currently signed to the Athletics would all become free agents instantly. And then in 2028, there could be an expansion draft to then take possibly better players from other teams that make them more competitive more quickly. Lee, this Oakland Athletics situation gets worse and worse every day.
Well, it's been worse for a lot longer than this season. And, like you see it, Ray, they have nobody showing up to their games. So the money is just not there. It has not been there for a while. You can put it up to small market ownership and guys who have not wanted to fork out money for that team over the last however many years. But yeah, look, that the MLB will do what's best for the MLB. Now, what I find more likely, because that's kind of an embarrassing situation.
You can't cut a team for 3 years.
This is going to be what happened in Arizona with the Phoenix Coyotes, is that the MLB, like the NHL, will step up and float the team for 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, they might do some crazy things with them, have them play in different places.
Minor league stadiums and things.
Yeah. But I highly doubt the team's going to be contracted. And like I said, it's bad for the brand of baseball for a team to do that. So I fully expect the MLB or the owners in general to kind of come together and make sure that the Athletics limp into that new stadium where they will become a superstar baseball team. Once again, Vegas is a great destination. The fans of Vegas are really great sports fans. And, again, a lot of people don't realize it's not the Vegas Strip kind of tourist stuff. There are a lot of people that live in Las Vegas.
Yes, in and around Vegas,
And they're all hockey fans now.
Yep.
But, they're becoming Raider fans, and baseball will survive there. So, again, you look at this as a long-term investment. If we're going to lose money on this team for 3 to 5 years, but it'll be worth it because when they get to Vegas, every game will be sold out. Every time they come out there, it's going to be a big deal. So that's my prediction. Again, look, the Arizona Coyotes are still around. They're paying in a 5,000-seat college arena. All right, but they're doing it. You know what I mean? No. So if they can do it, the Athletics can do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just feel like that the fact that this idea was even floated just makes me sick. But hey,
are you saying that baseball let you down, Ray? Baseball almost let you down?
Surprise. So moving on from Vegas and at one terrible stadium to another terrible stadium, MetLife Stadium, one of the worst football stadium in the world, people are saying. The big air conditioner in the swamp, as it is now called. Oh, what a disaster. The Giants and Jets, friggin' bums. But next year, 2 years, this should be the 2026 season year, will be the World Cup final. The World Cup final will be here, held across North America. A lot of the kickoff games will be here on the West Coast at SoFi, and I think down in Mexico City and a few other places, and it will spread across the rest of the continent as the rounds progress. And they have announced that I think it came down to SoFi and it came down to MetLife, but MetLife wins the final. World Cup final we played in New Jersey. This will be a absolute culture shock, I believe, for many Europeans, because we all know the U.S. team will not get there. But I will say this, if the Italian team gets to the World Cup final, it will basically be like a home game for them.
It's going to be so annoying to have all these Italians that have never been to Italy at that game. It's going to be the most annoying stadium in the world that night.
Yes, it is going to be insane. If that is the case, I'll say this, if it's somebody like, I don't know, Germany versus Brazil or something, then it will probably be the most tame World Cup final ever. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, MetLife does hold a great many people. They wouldn't have chosen it if the stadium could not support it. But I think people were talking about also how Europeans will have their minds blown when 8 lanes of traffic go down to 1 when trying to get into that parking lot. Right. So I'm going to tell all my European friends now, use public transit. They're probably used to that, so that's not the worst idea. But World Cup final in New Jersey. How
Well,
about
look,
that?
they're trying to tout it like it's in New York, and it's not. It's in New
It's not.
Jersey. I would
It's in
be
New
if I was
Jersey.
the governor of New Jersey, I'd be pretty mad about that. Like this is New Jersey, New York area.
Yeah.
Look, it's the cultural significance of it being next to Manhattan is what they're going for. What kind of bugs me, and I understand the stadium size before anybody jumps on me here. You have a very
Right.
beautiful soccer stadium right there in Newark, right near Newark, right
Yeah,
where
in
the New
Harrison.
York,
Yeah.
where the Red Bull play.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't hold as many
It
people as
holds 20,000, I believe, or something like
yeah,
that.
but
Yeah.
look, they'll doll up that area for the World Cup and make it special, and
Yeah.
they'll pour a lot of money. And that is an honor to be given that kind of stadium. It's just funny that between SoFi and MetLife, they picked MetLife.
Yeah.
But it's the New York attraction. That's what they want. They know the
Sure.
tourists are going to go into the city when they're there.
Yeah,
And
or they'll have
that's
fun
what
at
they're going for.
Xanadu.
It's not Xanadu. It's
I know.
American Dream.
I know. For
Right?
those who don't know, back when we were in Jersey in
College. We
college,
were in
it was
college. This is
called
a long
Project
time ago.
Xanadu, and it was
Yeah.
left unfinished for 15 years because they ran out of money.
They started this thing in 2006, I think, when we were
Ugh.
living there. It was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. Anyway, come on, Jersey. You're my home state. Do better. Well, speaking of folks who need to do better, this is actually a terrible story. Coming from Hockey Canada. 5 NHL players, Carter Hart, probably folks have probably heard of this, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Mike McLeod, and Alex Formenton, former NHL player, have all been charged with sexual assault. They have formally been charged now. Each one a count of sexual assault has happened back during, I believe, the World Juniors several years ago, where
2018.
Yes, a young lady was brought back to a hotel room under the guise of having consensual relations, and then it wasn't just with the one hockey player. So, not going to get into the graphic details of the accusations and whatnot. Again, that we leave that to you. But I will say this, Lee, it does not look good for these hockey players, and they will probably be former hockey players by the time this is all said and done. If again, innocent until proven, not guilty until proven guilty. But you assume innocence, but it does not look good at this particular moment.
No, there's nothing good about the situation for Hockey Canada or hockey in general. I've heard a lot of this is a distraction. Like, it's not a distraction. This is a pretty serious accusation. I'm with you, Ray, and my attitude on these athletes is, look, they're going to go in front of a court of law, and there's going to be a trial.
Yep.
And I'm really big on not passing judgment on anybody until the verdict is reached.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really fishy things on both sides of this story.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pinpoint of like who did what happened, who consented or didn't. I can tell you right now that their careers have been severely hurt, potentially ended by this. And what I hope is that it's not another one of these baseball situations where they're out of the game for 4 years, they can't get back in, and they're innocent.
Right.
That would really be devastating to see. But look, there's enough evidence for them to have been, basically arrested.
Sure.
They turned themselves in. That's not a good look. Several of them have apologized to the victim. So this is not looking good. It's a big black eye on the sport. No athlete is A, above the law, and B, I mean, I have a daughter, man. This is horrible. Yeah. It's horrible to think that they would take advantage of a young lady like that. So look, we'll see what happens. It's a real black eye for Hockey Canada. A lot of people have been fired over the last few years because of this. It's ironic, right? USA Hockey has just overtaken Canada for most draft picks for the first time ever. This is not going to help Hockey Canada. And again, we'll have to wait to see what happens in the court of law. I don't like to pass judgment on anybody until judgment is passed.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. Again, innocent until proven guilty. That stature holds true in Canada as it does in the United States, for those who don't know.
Well, and those players can't even work in the United States now. So even if there was some deal struck where they could play, they can't play outside of Canada now, which is a problem for all of them. It's going to be interesting to see kind of where this goes and what happens. But again, I will tell you, the NHL has been very supportive of the clubs in the sense of none of these players are going to be counted against the cap now, which is again, this is not what's important about the story. What's important is to find the ending.
Right.
But it's like everyone's been pretty professional about how this is going from an operation standpoint.
Yeah, no, it's I think the NHL in this case has been making all the right moves again and again. And all the teams have also said, we're not really going to comment on this until a verdict has been reached. But it is one of those situations where, as soon as a verdict is reached, I think every team will react swiftly and justly. And I believe the case is set to begin April 30th. So obviously these guys will miss the rest of this hockey season.
I mean, I think 2025. I don't think it's going to be soon.
It's not going to get wrapped. It's not going to wrapped up anytime soon.
These guys are done playing for a few years. I'll put it that way, and they should be due to the seriousness of this accusation.
Absolutely. Well, there is some good hockey news, however, which one of the things is that we mentioned the World Cup with 2026. Also 2026, the Winter Olympics. NHL players are going to be allowed to head back to the Olympics for the first time in 12 years, or 3 Olympics, which is great. So 2014 was the last time. And there's also going to be no All-Star game next year. Instead, there's going to be a Four Nations tournament. Lee, tell us a bit more about the Four Nations tournament.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing that they're doing. So the NHL All-Star game this year in 2024, I do want to say was excellent. The skills competition is back on track. It was not gimmicky. They actually showcased. I'll get to that. They actually showcased the players' skills, which, like, when I was growing up, I really loved the skills competition because it gave me a bar, it gave me a standard, it gave me something to shoot for. And the last few years have been so jokey and influencer based and just horrible.
There was a little bit of that this year with Michael Bublé.
Well, that wasn't the NHL's fault. I mean, there was just the NHL had done horrible jobs with the All-Star skills competition the last few years. This year's skills competition was amazing. Except for Kucherov, as you said, Ray. I don't know if that dude was blasted or if he just didn't care, but he made an embarrassment of himself at this game. And I'm going to talk about that again in a minute. And then the All-Star game of the tournament, as they do, where there's 4 teams and they have a semifinal right into a final. Enjoyed that as well. Not the best hockey I've ever seen, but it wasn't unwatchable. But next year they're going to be doing a Four Nations tournament. Canada, the United States, Finland, and Sweden are going to compete, come together, and find a champion. And it's something that I assume to be somewhat like the All-Star format, although I don't think they'll be playing all the games in one day. My guess is Canada will play the U.S. one day, Finland will play Sweden one day, unless they want to mix that up. I mean, those are 2 huge matchups just right there. And then there'll be a final the following day. Or maybe they'll do a little bit more of a round-robin type thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know that they're going to be doing this during the All-Star break next year, which means I expect it to be pretty fast. I don't think they're going to take it too much longer than a few days. Yeah. Russia obviously being left out, and I'll be honest with you, Ray. There's reasons behind that. Ovechkin opted not to do the All-Star game this year, and he probably is correct to want to rest to try and get his goal scoring back up. He's fallen off the pace a little bit to reach Gretzky in the time period that he wanted to. I also, when you think things like Kucherov and how some of these Russian players react to All-Star games and skills competitions, not to mention what's going on in Russia, I don't think that was a hard decision for them to do that. Russia has not had the best international standing lately in sports or the world. Athletes continually been found to be doping. Somehow they're still able to compete under the Russian Olympic Committee or non-country things. But I'm looking forward to this Four Nations tournament and the Olympics in 26. I think international competition ice hockey is some of the best hockey I've ever seen. And I think that this will add a little something to it next year's All-Star break or Four Nations break that's going to be fun to watch.
All right, before we move on to the next topic, and I know producer Caitlin's going to hate me for this, but you can keep this graphic up there. You might have noticed we have new graphics this week and all that other fun stuff. You mentioned doping, Lee. That triggered something in me, and I just remembered that this story also broke this week. I want to get your quick thoughts on the billionaire who wants to do an Olympic-style competition with athletes on all the performance-enhancing drugs. I
believe that billionaire is Peter Thiel.
Yes, I couldn't remember his name. Yes.
Who wrote a fantastic book called 0 to 1. This almost seems like a WWE storyline.
Yes. Look at that. Producer Caitlin got it up immediately.
Yeah, she always, for those of you listening to the show, if you watch the show now, we have lower thirds and some new technology here that we're using. But I am not for this, Ray, mainly because if you do enough PEDs, your heart will explode.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea. It's not going to be a good look. It's too extreme. I actually honestly think he was joking. I don't think he's being serious in any way. No, I am not for this. It does not set a good precedent.
No, I agree. I agree. I think it is. I also think it is not the best thing in the world. But I just that when you mentioned doping and we were talking a little bit about the Olympics, I was like, I gotta ask. I want to get your thoughts on it.
Somebody will die if they do this. So
Yes,
no.
it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea, folks. Anything which says let's use more drugs.
I mean,
It's
and we had that
probably
in
not.
baseball in the 90s anyway, so I don't know what you're expecting.
Yeah,
And
no,
football for that matter.
I don't think this was a good idea. So, oh goodness. All right, moving on now into the NFL. It is the week before the Super Bowl. So obviously there's a lot of press stuff going on. Again, go back and listen to last week's episode. Lee and I already made our predictions for the Super Bowl, but if you're curious, we both picked the Chiefs. Right now the Niners are 3-point favorites, which isn't a big deal. I don't personally understand it, but whatever. Like Patrick Mahomes needs more.
This is Vegas being Vegas, buddy.
Yeah.
It makes the bets. I think this is one of the highest betted on Super Bowls ever. And it's because of what you just said.
Yeah. But it's the NFL. It's ridiculous. So I think that I think the Chiefs. Mahomes doesn't need more fodder or more motivation to win his third championship, folks. So there's that. But yeah, a lot of what's going on, though, is a lot of press conferences, a lot of fun stuff. George Kittle got asked today what Harry Potter house he would be and things of that nature. Very, very lighthearted. But Roger Goodell had himself a really big presser as well yesterday, and he talked a lot about a few different things. First off, the success of streaming, the success of the Peacock game, the success of what the NFL has done in terms of increasing prime viewership by 24% year over year. They can directly attribute that to their Thursday night football games. But he also talked about other things. He says that he's constantly looking at ways to make the game more interesting and better. And of course, there was an outcry from every kicker in the league. But he also talked about, and this is an interesting thought, that he floated the idea of getting rid of the punt, outlawing punts and making everybody go for it on fourth down. I think this would definitely drive scoring up for sure. And you would still have kickers, right? You still have extra points and field goals, but you would outlaw the punter. Basically eliminating 32 jobs from the league. Lee, what are your thoughts on no more punters possibly?
I have a counter proposal, Ray.
Yes.
I don't think you should get rid of all the punters. I think you should not be able to punt past the 50-yard line.
That's a nice compromise.
Or the 40-yard line. It depends however you want to do it. Like I'm not against punting when you're on the 5.
Right.
Go. I understand punting in that situation. I don't always like it when they punt, at the 50 or the 40. Like I think once you get
if you're in the other your opponent's territory,
yeah,
maybe get rid of.
And again, like I think that a lot of people would argue that most people don't punt in those situations anyway. But
not as much as they used to.
Yeah, what would you say? I'd say from the goal line to probably the opponent's 40 is punting area. So maybe it's like, it's like the blue line in hockey. Like maybe the 40-yard lines, you can't punt past the 40-yard line. I'm sorry, you cannot punt past the 40-yard line. Yeah. I think that's a fair way to do it. You have to get creative on plays. You still get the added value of good field position, right? It's like a penalty, right? Like for the team, not a penalty like a flag. I mean, like it's like a penalty. Like you didn't earn the thing, so the other team's gonna get the ball. I would not get rid of punting altogether. To me, that changes the sport a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather get rid of the PAT before I did that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't get rid of the point after touchdown before the punting.
Right.
The point after touchdown is lame. Like I don't think a team should ever lose on that.
Right.
But no, that's my counter proposal. Like you cannot punt past the 40, your own 40.
There you go. That's an interesting. I like that. That's an interesting compromise. Make it a rule because to your point, more coaches than ever before are going for it in that area anyway. So now, and it would make Dan Campbell feel a whole lot better after losing the NFC Championship.
Although I'm saying that it encourages that behavior without destroying jobs and the play. Like they punt. Like here's the thing: as a coach, there are situations where punting makes sense.
Yes.
All right, and I'm saying that to me, it doesn't always make sense at the 40 or the 50 to do it. When I think you can make it exciting, right? Like, but again, if you're on your own 10-yard line, like it's almost unfair. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And think about
Right,
what
because
it's
then
gonna
at that
do.
point you don't get it. You're almost giving the other team a touchdown.
Yeah, and it's just like it could affect the gameplay a little bit too much. Like, what if you got a lead and it's like, it's a consequence suddenly? And I don't know. That's my counter proposal. You cannot punt past your own 40.
I think that's fair. I think that's a good one. You know what else is going to be interesting in the NFL possibly next year?
Lots of things.
Well, there's going to be lots of things, but your Eagles are going to be kicking things off. The
Oh,
first NFL game to be played in Brazil next year.
They're taking the Eagles as far away from Philadelphia as possible.
Yeah,
So the fans cannot let them know what they think. And if they win the game,
exactly,
they come home to roarous applause. If they lose the game, people will be calling for Nick Sirianni to be fired forever.
Yes. Well, or they'll at least have an excuse because they'll be like, well, they lost because they were in Brazil.
Brazil's awesome.
I've never been, but I've heard fantastic things.
Vega from Street Fighters from Brazil.
Yeah, there's a lot of Blanca too.
Blanca.
Vegas from Spain. Yeah,
yes.
Vegas.
Blanca from Brazil.
Yes,
was the greatest thing in the world at one point.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that was the World Warriors, right? That's what it was all about. Street Fighter 2 was that everybody from everywhere. You had Ryu and E Honda from Japan. You had Ken and Guile from America. You had Chun-Li from China.
This is in the game, not the movie where Ken was not.
Everybody was American. Everybody. Either everybody was American.
Was Cammy British?
Cammy was British, right. But she worked under Guile, right? Like played by Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, and then you have the great Vietnamese, the North Korean athlete, but he wasn't allowed to participate because North Korea was closed off.
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un in North Korea actually won Street Fighter.
That's right. in North Korea.
In North Korea, he won Street Fighter.
That's right. He is the world warrior to the North Koreans. They don't understand.
He also won Mortal Kombat, which is
Mortal Kombat and Tekken, and we'll get into that later.
All of them, yes.
Yeah, he won all of them.
Marvel versus Capcom, he won that too.
Yeah. He was Marvel and Capcom.
Yeah, yes. When it comes to the League, he did that. It wasn't the Suicide Squad, turns out.
He was also a superstar in backyard sports. And speaking of backyard sports,
good transition.
Thank you. The Kelce brothers. This is interesting. On their most recent episode of New Heights, which of course is their podcast, the Kelce bros, specifically Jason, was talking about that he is looking into buying the IP for backyard sports and starting a video game company and bringing it back. By the way, Atari owns it right now, Jason. Just so you know, Atari. I think this is a great idea. I think that it's an underused IP. I think having those guys at the helm of a video game company would be great. I also want to just let them know right now that I can help them with all of this stuff.
You should write them a letter, right?
I could help. Jason Kelce, Mr. Kelce. I first of all, I was one of the people on Twitter that said you should run for president. I think that's a great idea. I think everybody would vote for you. But also, if you decide not to be president and you want to be just the head of a video game company, I can help.
Yeah, we should do like a quick mock interview, Ray. I'll be Jason Kelce. You can be Ray Carsillo. You ready?
Okay, yes.
Okay, Ray, who's your favorite football team?
The New York Giants.
Okay, thanks for coming in, Ray.
I blew it.
Tell me about your relevant experience. It doesn't matter, you're Giants fan. No, Jason, this would be a really great move. The Kelce brothers masterfully have been building their brands.
Yeah,
the last 2 seasons, obviously both Travis and Jason. I could totally see Jason running this game, or at least being the figurehead of the game to bring it back to prominence. Jason's close to our age, right, Ray? I mean, he's up there with us.
Yeah,
backyard sports was a great game when we were growing up, usually on a PC. And I think that it's pretty wholesome. And there's not a lot of games like that nowadays. Everything's all EA Sports or NBA 2K, and it's just not fun in that sense, the kids sense. But all the backyard sports games were awesome. I think it would be a brilliant move right now if they were to bring that back. And could they bring it into VR? That would be my other question too. In addition to that, because it doesn't have to look crazy. But I think it's a great move. No one's really sure if Jason Kelce is going to retire. They got him on camera yesterday. I mean, you can't read too much into this, but someone said, "Please don't retire," and he said, "I'm trying not to." Right. So I don't, whatever that means. You won't hear about this till after the Super Bowl, but definitely these guys are just racking up IP and things for their post career, which is brilliant. Right. Yeah. I mean, Travis is probably being a little more successful right now than Jason in that realm of trending.
Well, and that's
I don't
the
know
thing.
why.
I mean, if Taylor Swift wanted to, I'm sure she could front them the money if need be to really. Not to say these guys have plenty of money, but I think they might not realize the investment it takes to actually start a video game company.
Yeah, you're
but
right.
Taylor, that's like a drop in the bucket for her.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's backyard baseball.
Wow.
It would sell out immediately.
It would. The thing that's
All the
interesting. I think it
Swifties
would.
be buying it.
I think it would, but I think it would be a completely different audience than the people who not completely. That's not fair. I think there would definitely be some people who used to play the backyard sports games that would be like, I don't want nothing that Taylor Swift is on.
I mean, can you imagine in the middle of touchdown? Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Or it could be like Tecmo Bowl. Touchdown. Okay, I'll stop there. I love it. They should do it. Or someone should do it, whether it's them or not.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. And we'll be seeing plenty of Taylor Swift on Sunday. Maybe, probably. So she was also all over the Grammys, which I did not watch, but I heard people were very excited because she announced the new album. So
she's the first artist, I believe, to win 4 albums of the year.
Yes, and actually, just a touch of controversy there, because then Jay-Z talked about how, of course, Beyonce has twice as many Grammys as Taylor Swift, and yet has never won Artist of the Year, which is an interesting thing, and honestly, a good hypocrisy to call out, and good on Jay-Z for standing up for his wife.
Our producer has put Taylor Swift now as the topic. We need to move on and get that off. I love Taylor Swift. I have no problem with Taylor Swift.
Yo, absolutely. I don't beef with her either. I have I just look. I'm not gonna lie. I do not listen to her music. I am not her target audience.
Don't have a problem with Taylor Swift. I don't know.
But I have no issue.
I don't know anybody who does have an actual problem with Taylor Swift. I mean, hey, dude, bro, I don't want to hear about music.
Because we don't hang out with insane people. So anyway,
well, what do we?
I mean, we're harsh.
Ray has no beef.
Producer Caitlin's having a lot of fun with the lower third.
You all need to watch this episode on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Geeks Who Like Sports group. It's a ton of fun and a lot of extra content that you don't get on the show. Yes. Ray has no beef with Taylor. It's on the screen. I'm realizing, Ray, that with a producer, we could do some fun games with this where you and I don't know what's going to come up down there and have to react to it at some point.
Yes. This will keep producer Caitlin on her toes, I think, possibly.
We should let everybody know her first name is actually Caitlin. It's not her name is not producer Caitlin, but we like to call her that, right? Producer Caitlin. Producer Caitlin knows what we're talking about. Okay, back to the show.
Back to the show. Anyway, moving on. This is kind of another interesting sports topic, sports and geek topic, really. And we've talked about all this. We mentioned it briefly with Roger Goodell talking about how good streaming was for the NFL and how good the NFL was for streaming. In response to that, Fox, Warner Brothers, and Disney, so 3 of the big 5, really, or big 6. If you think about, obviously that means that there's no NBC and no CBS, but they are joining forces. That's ESPN, that's Fox Sports, and it's whatever the heck Warner Brothers has. I guess AEW Wrestling. Joining forces for a new sports-only streaming service that will launch in the fall. This was actually breaking news. This announcement about 20 minutes before we started recording. So, but this is a big deal. It makes sense. Sounds like it's going to be ready just in time for the next football season. And obviously, the fall is a great time to launch something like this because you have the start of hockey, start of basketball, the World Series, and football. Lee, this is a huge deal, but it also does make a lot of sense that we're moving away from cable as more and more people cut the cord, and yet it's another streaming service. But this is the streaming sports. So there's the one thing that keeps people connected to cable. You get rid of that need, and this could be the final nail in the coffin for traditional cable, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just looking this up too, just so everybody knows. Warner Brothers Sports, you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Includes being the home of the Olympic Games in Europe, tennis's Grand Slams, 600 cycling broadcasts per year, UCI track championships, mountain bike championships, PGA Tour.
Oh, and they also have, I forgot, they also have NBA as well because that's TNT and TBS. That's right. Yeah, I forgot.
They have a lot of properties here, especially in the football, soccer realm.
Right.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, and I don't do this often, but I'm going to pat myself on the back, Ray, because I called this many times over the last few years that this is the eventuality that's going to happen. I love that it's all going to come under one roof for sports. The real question with sports, the only string holding me to any kind of cable-like thing, and I use YouTube TV, which is kind of like cable, is my local broadcasts. That's the only thing that they have not secured here yet, is that the local broadcast. But I think this is going to be called ESPN. I don't know why they would stray away from that branding.
Yeah.
But ESPN is expanding to all these sports now.
Yeah.
It's almost surprising this has not happened yet. That there's a sports specific streaming station. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I think it's totally going to work as long as they play their cards right. I think that Disney will package this with Disney Plus. It just makes a lot of sense to me. So, I mean, look, here's your national football games of the week. Here's all of ESPN. Now, again, all of ESPN has hockey, complete coverage of the NHL. Again, it's just that local broadcast. It's the only thing that's keeping me paying for something locally.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about this. I think it's correct. I think it's smart. I also think, Ray, it's going to open people up to new sports they haven't watched before, which I think is really important. This is literally ESPN The Ocho. Yeah. That's what it is. And I'm saying it here now, February 6, 2024, before everybody else makes these jokes. ESPN The Ocho has been made, and it is this new platform.
Yeah. It's going to have everything. Again, I forgot that TNT and TBS are owned by Warner Brothers as the parent company. So,
again,
of course,
you've got football, basketball, hockey, soccer, baseball too, I believe, right?
There's going to be with Fox Sports, you're going to have a lot of baseball.
All the major sports on here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and Warner Brothers has baseball playoffs.
Right.
So.
I mean, that's damn good.
Yeah. That's a big deal. That is a big, big deal. So if you haven't cut the cord yet, one more reason to possibly get ready to do so.
That's where you need to put your resume, Ray, because that's up and coming.
Again, folks, I am available for work if need be. Again, I've worked at places like ESPN. I've been covering video games and sports, all other fun stuff for the last 15 years. Speaking of video games, we mentioned, actually, funny enough, we mentioned Tekken as we were talking about the World Warriors with Street Fighter and whatnot. But of course, Tekken is another great fighting franchise. And you know what? It's interesting. Tekken delayed itself out of last year because you had Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat released very close to each other, and Tekken was like, we're going to back off just a little bit because we're probably not as big as those two, at least in the West. And we're going to hang back, and we're going to come out in January. And I will say this, first off, it's still fighting game fans are feasting because it's still 3 major fighting game franchises coming out within a year of each other, right? And I'm going to say it, Tekken 8 is pretty dang good. They did a great job of taking some of the things that Street Fighter 6 did. Some of them they did better, some of them they did not. But really finding a way to make it their own, continue the story, have some really interesting fighters. I actually 100%ed it already. Tekken 8.
That does not surprise me in the least.
No, it was my 5th 100% of the year. So
how many?
That was my 8th overall and 5th 100%.
It's only February.
Yes, I'm
behind
behind schedule.
It was my son's birthday yesterday.
Oh my God! Happy birthday, Logan!
Yeah, he turned 10, Ray.
Holy cow! He's in double digits.
He's in double digits. He received his Switch 6 years ago.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! For those who don't know, I got Logan his Switch for his 4th.
He did, and it has been the bane of my existence, and I appreciate it because I play it sometimes too.
I also got Lee for his wedding present. I got him an Xbox 360.
You did, which we have since retired.
Yes, you guys have moved on and moved up in the Xbox realm as they have moved on. So we're going to get into Xbox in a bit. Producer Caitlin, if you're not seeing it, folks, Lee's been a dad for 10 years. That's a 4th of his life. And that is
a 4th of my life. And I've been with my wife 20 years, which is half of my life.
There you go.
This is the year. A quarter dad, half husband, 100% awesome.
There you go. You should make a t-shirt. You should make a t-shirt.
No, I'm not quite ready for the final dad form yet.
One day. Oh, producer Caitlin, there's a quarter dad, half husband, fully bald.
Not fully. Wonderful. I mean, I have hair on my head. So you just can't see it.
Anyway, to wrap up my thoughts on Tekken 8.
We got to get rid of this new streaming platform that we're using, Ray. Caitlin's using this a little bit too much. But again, for those of you listening, you really need to watch this one. No, I'm just go ahead.
This is a lot of fun. Tekken 8, I'm going to give fittingly an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's not the best. It's not the best fighting game, but it's very, very solid. If you like Tekken and or fighting games, there is something here for you to enjoy for sure.
Second, a great arcade game back in the late 90s.
Yes.
It was one of the first 3D fighters at the time,
Yep. Mhm.
which was very amazing to look at for those of you a little younger out there. Obviously, everybody's since caught up.
Yeah,
But,
Tekken and Virtua Fighter were like the first couple ones.
Yeah, I wish we could explain to people how in 1998, the late 1900s, how amazing that actually was.
God, we're old. But yeah. So speaking of older franchises, actually another one had its most recent iteration. This came out when we were kids on the Apple II originally. The Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, the newest reboot of the Prince of Persia from Ubisoft. And if you love Metroidvanias, another game I 100%ed. This was technically my 7th beat. I actually did them in reverse. This was my 7th beat and 4th 100%. Tekken was my 8th beat and 5th 100%. I 100%ed this one. Took longer than Tekken, actually. Metroidvania, a lot of stuff to find.
Such a geek.
Yeah, I know.
That's the point. That's
exactly. If you love Metroidvania, this is some of the smoothest action that I think we've seen in a Metroidvania in a very long time. A lot of exploration. I will say there were some bugs that was a little disappointing. But I think that's also because they ran out of time and then was able to put that last coat of polish on it. But beautifully acted, beautiful art style. It really feels like a new chapter for the Prince of Persia. I hope they continue to make the Prince of Persia, because for those who don't realize, they took a break from the Prince of Persia because Assassin's Creed kind of took over for them in that regard, right? You had this Prince of Persia.
Sands of Time was huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that was a long time ago now.
That was already like 20 years ago.
No.
I think it was 20 years ago.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. It's about there.
Yeah.
So I really hope that this relaunches the Prince of Persia, and I liked it more than Tekken. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Raid's loving Prince of Persia. Yeah, again, a game from our youth. It's still alive. It's amazing.
Yeah, an IP that continues to thrive.
You know what I remember about the original Prince of Persia, even on the Apple II, it was the stuff to explain, but for the time, the graphics for that game have always seemed to be so much smoother than any other game. I remember even playing it with it. The jumping was like, oh my God.
Well, because
it looks like a real person.
Well, and because it was actually a person that was like scanned into the game, and they kind of rotorized his joints. It was really advanced technology for the time.
Yeah.
Right. So Prince of Persia.
Old man sigh.
So we mentioned, obviously Prince of Persia is on Xbox and PlayStation, and we mentioned Xbox also earlier. And very interesting. This is interesting. This is the toxic side of gaming. Xbox. Phil Spencer, who of course is the head of Xbox, he basically announced yesterday that Xbox is going to have a huge press conference next week talking about the future of Xbox. And immediately the internet went to the worst possible scenario. Microsoft's never going to make any more Xboxes. They're not going to make any more hardware. They're going to be third party only. They're getting rid of Gamerscore. They're getting rid of Game Pass. Folks, we don't know. We don't know. All he said is there's going to be an announcement next week. And because corporate communications take a long time, he's kind of just giving people a heads up that they're crossing the T's and dotting the I's on what they want to say. My prediction is that some of their gaming exclusives, and you have to remember, gaming exclusives aren't what they once were. We've already seen some Sony titles come over to PC and even over to Xbox with like baseball and whatnot. And I think you're going to see something similar where Microsoft's going to be like, we're going to start putting things like Starfield and a couple of other games. They're going to be more timed exclusive over on PlayStation because Microsoft likes money. And they realize that some people don't own a PlayStation and an Xbox like yours truly. They only have one or the other. So if a $3 trillion company, because that's what Microsoft is at this point, wants to become a $4 trillion company, which we know they do, they're going to start putting their games onto other systems, even if it is more timed exclusive. And now that they completely own those games, they want a slice of those profits. Lee, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen with the future of Xbox and the internet freaking out to the point where like some influencers are like, that's it, I'm no longer an Xbox guy. I'm no longer an Xbox guy because I'm an influencer. And I don't know the first thing actually about video games or anything, but you like to listen to me because I'm an Xbox guy.
Well, Ray, as we've spoken about many times, the size of Microsoft versus the size of Sony is not comparable in
No,
any way. They are not close.
right. No, not in
um,
terms of the parent company, but of course,
yes,
Sony. There are more PlayStations out there right now than Xbox.
I get that. Yeah. But if Xbox is going to allow their games to be played on PlayStation, this is a move not because of the end of Xbox, because of the end of PlayStation.
Mhm.
And it's probably a move, if that's what happens, of, well, let's get them in love with our games now. Because when PlayStation inevitably goes under and Sony pulls the plug on it, which I know for those of you listening, you might think that's crazy. You might think that's insane, but I don't think it is. That now you've gotten the PlayStation fans to love you. Uh, Look, we've seen these mergers in times in the past too. What I'm really more interested, Ray, is will the PlayStation titles come back over to the Xbox? Right?
Yeah,
I haven't got to play Spider-Man. I haven't got to play certain games. Um,
I do think that
yeah,
this might be part of a trade where Microsoft is like, we're going to give you 10 games,
yeah.
and then you give us Spider-Man and God of War.
Yeah, and and again, Sony needs it more than people think,
Mm.
right? So it's one of those things. Although the freak out thing, it's like, my God, people, like
That's really the thing that's kind
doesn't
of
make
disappointing.
sense.
But
Yeah,
again, we've talked about it, the addiction to rage. It's the angry
it
culture.
makes no business sense that they would end Xbox.
Right.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, but some of the folks who are covering video games are actually trying to move forward. It's interesting. This was also a relatively new story, relatively breaking. IGN, of course, the biggest gaming outlet out there, is trying to unionize, which I've been saying this for years, that everybody should start to unionize
Yeah,
in the
in
video game
in
industry
the
in
current state of
particular.
gaming, yeah, I would agree with that.
Like with all the layoffs, with all the unfair wages, crunch, and all this other stuff, and also with the death of so many video game outlets. Again, this should have happened years ago.
Agreed.
But again, it also takes people being willing to. It's hard. Unionization requires organization, and that sometimes is not easy.
It's not the strong suit of the video game industry.
Exactly. And so, but this is a good sign that you're hearing this, that a lot of companies are doing,
Yeah,
at
well,
least, or teams and whatnot. And
the
now
size
IGN.
of the industry demands it.
Yeah.
You
No.
have trillions of dollars and few leading that money versus the many that work for that money. This is
Yeah.
long overdue.
Yeah.
Again, film. What is it, Ray? Film, music combined. Isn't that it?
Not even so.
Yeah.
So the video game industry, yeah, the film industry, the music industry, and the four major sports leagues could combine and still not equal what the video game
Yeah.
industry makes
You
every
need to
year.
union, and every one of those industries has a
The
union.
union. Yeah.
I mean, think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
I
But
think
no,
this is
people like you need to be protected. And I think that, again, you're seeing the molten lava phase. It's going to come to that.
yeah, absolutely. I think that all of the job loss over the last year
It's
plus.
horrendous. I mean, you're not going to have anybody left in the industry.
Well, and that's the thing, is we've lost 16,000 jobs in the last calendar year,
That's
or
ridiculous.
13 months. And I think people are finally starting to realize that the only way that this has gotten to be too much, the corporate greed has gotten to be too much, when again, the video game industry made $181 billion last year, right? Half of that
Yeah.
being mobile, but again, the other half being VR, AR, PC, and console. That's still a lot of billions, folks. The billions with a B is I don't know if you realize how much money that is. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money. So, kind of a joke. Speaking of jokes, this is a fun story, and actually also a boon for Sony. I am a huge Three Stooge fan. For those of you who might not know, I am a huge. I have all the DVDs. I've seen all the movies. I have Three Stooges calendars. I am a stooge, in a good way. Anyway, the producer Caitlin, Ray is a stooge. Yes, I could be.
You need an exclamation point on that, Caitlin, not a question
Yes,
mark at the end.
I
of it.
will.
Yeah.
If they ever wanted to remake the Stooges, I would happily shave my head and be curly. Happily.
You did once.
I did actually. Yes, that's true. The Three Stooges have announced that they're having a streaming channel. This is going to take away. Probably is going to shut down their YouTube channel, but that Sony, who now owns all of the Columbia shorts and whatnot, and I don't know, it's going to be. They said it's going to be a lot of different services, probably included in bundles, like on things like Sling and whatnot. But they're making the Three Stooges Plus channel, where you can get all the Stooges all the time. And I thought that this was just a really nice story, because as a Stooge, I am very excited to know that the Stooges could be at my fingertips at any given moment. And it has been great. And everybody from the Stooges estate, Curly's grandson, and several other folks have signed off on this, saying this is going to be great because we love the fact that our family is so beloved by so many Stooge fans still out there. And this is going to be a chance for more people to experience it. So, yeah, great news there. Any thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, as long as I don't have to pay for it or anything on top of it, I'm fine with that. Like, I don't know why you'd come off YouTube because it's a way to make money, but
Yeah.
it's a great way to get the name and the brand kind of forefront again. But yeah, like I would like to see it show up on different devices as something that people pay for. Like, I could see Disney Plus even having it. So
sure,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, depending on what Sony wants to do. So, so that's a fun story. Unfortunately, we're going to finish on a not so fun story. An absolute legend passed away this week from Rocky to Mandalorian, from Predator to Happy Gilmore. The great Carl Weathers passed away suddenly this past week, peacefully in his sleep, his family said, at the age of 76. He lived a great life. He also was talking about a geek who likes sports. Also was played for the season for the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders. So, he was a former linebacker, then transitioned, went back to school to get his acting and drama degree. And obviously that seemed to be a good decision on his part. And yeah, just really, really sad. And again, 76, he lived a full life, beloved by millions and millions of people around the world, with lasting memories of him, again, from so many different great projects. Carl Weathers is no longer with us. So.
Yeah, in addition to obviously his on-screen work, right? Great behind-the-screen guy too. Tremendous director.
Yes.
Many of you probably don't realize if you do watch The Mandalorian, he directed several episodes of that show.
He was actually in the process of directing something else when he passed away.
Well, that was his last message. But he loved cinema. He loved acting. He loved directing. He had a real passion for it. I always say this, Ray, when celebrities die, it's very rare that I'll react.
Yeah.
Because I don't know these celebrities. That's my attitude. I don't know Carl Weathers, but there's certain ones that kind of, you'll hear me like, oh no.
Yeah.
I've always said Robin Williams really shook me when he passed away. I was really upset to hear that Carl Weathers died. And here's the other thing too, is as someone from Philadelphia, and I'm not trying to be funny here. Apollo Creed had a major role in my life. As this villain that I grew up, not hating, but like rooting against, to someone who helped Rocky in a film. Again, you guys can smile and laugh at, oh, it's just a movie. Rocky is not just a movie in Philadelphia. It is a statement, right? Philadelphia often feels like an ugly stepchild, and we can have to believe. And Apollo Creed in Rocky 3 and 4 was an amazing character, especially in Rocky 3. I've always said Rocky 3, outside Rocky, Rocky is the best of all of them. Mm-hmm. But Rocky 3 is my favorite Rocky film, not Rocky 4. Everybody loves Rocky 4, and I understand why, but Rocky 3 has the best messaging, right? That this man's villain comes to help him, to teach him, to bring him out from the depths. Everybody's been sharing that clip lately of, there is no tomorrow. So, like, this is someone who, again, in my youth kind of had an impact on me without actually knowing me or me knowing him. So that one hit me a little bit, Carl Weathers. But, yeah, there's not many people that can claim Star Wars, Rocky, and football.
Yeah.
But, this one was a bit of a shock. I'd say the last celebrity death that kind of hit me between the eyes was Black Panther, and that one really, Chadwick Boseman came out of nowhere. This one kind of felt that way too. So Godspeed, Carl Weathers. I hope you're up there with the alligator and Abraham Lincoln, just like you were in Happy Gilmore and down on us.
Yeah, no. So on that somber note, we want to thank everybody.
A drop of Zoa to you, sir.
Yes. There you go, our non-sponsor of the week. There we go. All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in, as always, whether you're listening to us or watching us.
Look at that. 1 hour episode, basically, right? That's good for us. Let us know if you like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're coming in. We're getting efficient, baby. We're getting in there. We're getting our stuff together. We are back. We are back in a rhythm.
Or Instagram, GWLS Podcast, or Twitter, GWLS Podcast, or YouTube.
It's
Geeks Who Like
X.
Sports. Huh?
It's X. It's not Twitter.
Or on Twitter, GWLS Podcast.
It's still Twitter to us. Sorry.
Or on Twitter X.
Yeah, Twitter.
X Twitter. On X Twitter.
X Twitter. There you go. It used to be. It was once Twitter, and now it's an X. So there you go. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it as always. Like I said, it means a lot to us. But yeah, we hope you enjoy the episode. Come back next week for more Geeks Who Like Sports, and stay tuned for this weekend. We're gonna drop the new mashup. So until then, though, that's Lee. I'm Ray. Good night, everybody.